I need to learn the whole countdown theme. I
Da-da, da-da, da-da-da, pew.
need to watch on YouTube. Okay, good. Jack, you were in flow before I interrupted you.
That's all right. Oh, sorry.
Timing.
My concern, yeah, is that percentage just makes me hesitate every time I even talk about it. And it's something that every time I describe dignity, it's the first thing that people comment on. And I think it could very easily put people off straight away. To have to commit to 51% of the income.
Yeah, what Anna said. Actually, well, yeah. I wonder if we should do a round first, or
It's just because the positioning of how you explain something can massively affect the way that someone sees it, and therefore how you talk about it after that.
I know, and I thought about that as well.
And it's funny because I think this is also so crucial from a strategic point of view, how all of us where it could head to, because the way we are explaining it right now and the emphasis we put on percentiles and whether it's more of a marketplace, I think it could potentially guide the long-term direction of dignity. And I feel like the more we worry about the percentage, the more it feels like people are seeing it as a trading platform, first and foremost. Because to me, it's really funny because I didn't even bat an eyelid with the concept of 100% of earnings going to causes, or 100% of earnings not going to me. So yeah, I'm very conscious I've just really interrupted you, Pasco, so I'll leave it till later. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I had thought about that yesterday as well. The way that I describe something, and if I am quite literally hesitating before I say the 51%, and obviously that is going to change the way that people hear it as well. If my confidence isn't with that. But there's a reason for that initially, and I think it's my concern with that percentage. And I understand that, if you keep it 51%, then it is all about being a fundraising platform, and that's first and foremost, and I love that. But in terms of involvement and getting what was first described to me as like the most important thing for engagement and the what's the word? When you have a lot of people using it, and you have to have a certain amount of people using it, otherwise it's not going to work. What's called a critical mass. To gain that, we're going to have a lot of people involved in using the website, and that means for a lot of people to invest and want to put their adverts on, and also want to use it. Now, while I can see lots of people wanting to use it, being able to employ people for 51%, I think, from the immediate reaction I've had from the people I have described it from, giving 51% on that initial job and thinking that is going to be the percent every time, I can't see people buying into that. I know that fundraising, it's a fundraising platform, bottom line, but if people are put off straight away by a really high percentage, then maybe they won't use it at all. I think what I said yesterday in the WhatsApp, like, we've got to remember that a lot of people don't give to charities at all. I think we are asking a huge amount from straight off the bat, and perhaps it's too high. Perhaps we're asking for too much. And while we can maybe collect a quality group of people that want to give that much in terms of their jobs, that means we're going to have a very small percentage of people actually using the website, and then when people come on and they're looking for a certain person or a certain person in the area, they're not going to find them. are going to find a select group of people that are able to give that amount of time. So I'm wondering whether we would be more successful in terms of critical mass, lowering that initial percentage to involve more people and for it to be more accessible for people that really need that money. Especially if we're starting somewhere like London, where I know people are very conscious about the amount of money that they make, and don't necessarily see themselves being able to give 51% of a job away. I think, like, I wonder whether that initial, launch is, we are integrating, everyone's working days with charitable giving, and for people to be able to give up their time for that. I wonder whether there needs to be a slower integration. We can always change that percentage. That can be raised. We can raise the bar, but I just wonder whether that bar is too high. That's me.
Yeah. I can also quite happily hold it if you have some responses on it.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to type so that I didn't interrupt someone else's flow. I think this is a brilliant question. I really do, and I think it's one that was definitely going to come up when I structured the business plan. How I interpret what you're saying is, if we lower the percentage people donate to causes, do we widen the scope of potential users? I think the answer is yes. And so I think it's definitely a big one to consider, because there's always, when you design a new platform or you create a new community or you do something new where you need to find that tipping point. I definitely agree that finding that tipping point becomes a lot easier when you widen your remit, essentially, and you're doing that by calling it not only a platform to donate to causes, but a platform to get freelance work. And you have to kind of acknowledge that and let it not, because it essentially would become, the more you lower that percentage, the more people will see it not only as a way to donate, but as a way to earn for themselves. And I think that's brilliant, and we should probably discuss how that feels, and how it impacts on the fact that we want the core mission to be to donate to causes. And I think so my answer would be, I don't think it's too scary. I think it's okay. My initial hesitations were, does it detract a lot from the causes? Does it detract from the core narrative around the platform? And I think we would need to be conscious of that all the way through our kind of brand story and all the way through the way we engage with people. But yeah, I think it's an amazing question, and I agree. I think lowering it could help us initially to build critical mass, and we could encourage the incretion. That's not a word. You guys know what it means, I hope. We could encourage the incline of that percentage through the way we engage with users. So I think there's still opportunity for it to still, and it might even be something we could gamify maybe, or reward if people are donating certain percentages.
Cool.
What about you, Luke? How do you feel?
I feel pretty strongly for minimum 51% goes to causes on each transaction out of at least these two sort of. I think it's often easier than we realise to create false dichotomy. I think like conversations we're having about a sort of ambassador role, where somebody who's used the platform for a while and has kind of demonstrated their belief in it and their commitment to upholding the values of it, could be then eventually invited to step up to an ambassador role where they are actually starting to. It's like that disruption map thing that I think both you guys have seen. I think it's actually really. I feel like it's really dangerous for Dignity to even consider disrupting people's primary income space. It feels like that's a completely different project, and that's an enormous thing to take on, and for sure something that I think we can expand into. But I feel like that disruption map was me sort of visualizing how I felt like I was most inspired for Dignity to first and foremost start with the low-hanging fruit, which is sponsored bungee jumps, sponsored walks, literally everything that Charity Miles is doing wrong, in my opinion. Just waste your time doing something that's not actually in and of itself valuable in order to raise funds for something that is valuable. Like, why not do something valuable, and as a byproduct, you're also raising money for stuff that's valuable. So I think there's a risk for me in diluting the community. I actually don't want people using Dignity platform if they're just like, oh, I can just carry on business as usual. This is just a way for me to just get more work, and I just like say 15% goes to like Oxfam or fucking whatever. Like, people are desperate for work, and I think I actually don't want Dignity platform to be appealing specifically to people who are in desperate situations really right now. That's my honest feeling. I feel like people who are in desperate situations, can't pay their rent, are in positions of scarcity and stuff, are in a way the most sort of deserving of support. They're kind of the people that in the long game, I do feel like, yeah, they're the people in most need. Like, why would we cater for people who've already got abundance? But I think there's different kinds of abundance. And like us three, you know, like imagine any of us three came into Dignity platform like, fucking, I need a job, like, come on, like, this project sounds kind of cool, and I sort of get it, but basically I just need to pay my rent. Like, when can this project pay me? Can, like, we have a salary now? Like, we're not coming at it from that place. We're three people who, I'm skint, if you like, but I've got resiliences and resourcefulnesses that mean I'm not a drag on Dignity, and it means that what I'm able to give it is not as much demands and self-centered needs as much as wanting to share and feed it. And I think that's the kind of community. I'm not really bothered about critical mass. I'm not bothered about the number of sign-ups. I think we'll get almost too many sign-ups. We'll get so many people signing up to this thing as soon as we work, I think, cause by cause, and we say, you know, if we do work with an organisation as big as like Greenpeace, let's say, and they send their standard email out to 2.8 million people, you know, saying, want another way to support us by helping out your neighbours? I can totally imagine 1% of people, 2.8 thousand people signing up overnight and being immediately linked by a cause that they're passionate about. And if there isn't any links between skills and needs in those 2.8 thousand people, like, I'll be pretty surprised. It will be basically because they won't have filled in their profile, which is a different challenge, I think. So I think I would personally say forget the numbers, like, just look at the causes. Let's just pick really carefully causes like the refugee crisis, causes where there are people who are just yearning for an opportunity to give, and you're separated miles away from workers needing to pay their rent. Like, that's such a different space. Go and use TaskRabbit. Go and job seekers. Like, get an actual job. This isn't a platform to come when you need a job. I actually wanna like pick up Dignity and run away from those people or contaminate it. And I think that's how people see the internet and this kind of gig economy, collaborative consumption thing. Like, people don't sign up to Airbnb because they're excited about cultural exchange. They go, immediate dosh in my pocket. Right? And I think we can, if we want to create something really game-changing, I think we're going to need to invite the people who are already game-changing. And from that point, we will move into a place where we can start to shift the people who are not so necessarily pioneering, the people who are a bit more entrenched in old ways of thinking and seeing charity and giving and work. I think we need to work with the people who are most like us right now and grow that community.
Anna, you go first. I got some comments after you.
Okay. I think what you just said is amazing. Thank you. It's funny because before you spoke, I really, from one side, saw the whole point of critical mass, and you know, in my experience of working with the Crowd, the sustainability company, and creating that platform and considering how to get sign-ups and how to find that tipping point with users, we had to be very cautious with how niche we went with the functionality, because we needed to cultivate the conversations and to really bring value to the whole community online. We needed to make sure that there was enough people. So from a numbers point of view, you know, the whole do something 20 times, it will come through once or something in sales. We really needed to figure that in. But this is different, and the reason I thought that it would be quite similar is because this is essentially an online community as well. There will be a massive community element to it, and there is a lot of the same ethos that you try and consider when you create online communities that will be present in the mentality of these users as well. This community mentality will still be here. I think that's what's just thrown me with my initial response. But now that you've said something that was really important to me, this whole idea of attracting the wrong type of users, and when I heard the word ambassador, and you I didn't know whether you were maybe going to go down the idea that if you're an ambassador that you're allowed more lenience with your percentage. It immediately made me think, why should we be using the percentage as leverage for anything? You know, if we want to reward people, if we want to acknowledge certain types of users or acknowledge your engagement or your contribution, there are so many ways to do that. And I actually now, Luke, after you talking, really believe that keeping it at 51% can really be a strong message to say, we recognize you need to look after yourself, but we are fundamentally about giving to each other and about causes, and we stand by this 51%. So I actually feel that it is quite a solid message of confidence in what we're doing, and that it doesn't detract from being able to reward people or acknowledge that they do need to look after themselves, and that, you know, when you think about loving someone, you need to love yourself before you can love others. When you think about gifting, you should make sure that you're sufficiently provided for enough so that you can provide for others. That does mean maybe you question what your needs are, but anyway, I think that's different from allowing people complete control over the monetary side of things, because I think you are then opening the doors to being yet another system or platform for income generation. And I initially thought, well, that's great because mass. But then the one thing that I've experienced that I've kind of forgotten so crucially with my sorry, my mum's shouting at me. I'm busy. Sorry. Oh, fuck, I lost my train. It's gone out the station.
One thing that you remembered that you learned.
Oh, God, yeah, thank you. From my time at Impact Hub, Up Global, Startup Weekend, all these big companies, or small companies that were suddenly going big very quickly. It's very easy when you start a company like 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line, when you've established your core operations, your mission is clear, you have got a small base of followers. When you start trying to look for that tipping point at that second stage of critical mass, or that second stage, it's so easy to accidentally move away from your core mission in chasing expansion and growth. And I think I recognize that this 51% for me might be quite tied into that. We will never drop that principle of this is what we stand for. We are causes first and foremost.
I think that's both of you. That's the reassurance I needed. I think I just needed this conversation to understand it properly.
Oh God.
To begin with, I wrote like, you know, I don't think there's any wrong
Mum?
type of user.
The guys are here. Sorry, I can't answer. They've rung the doorbell. Sorry, guys. Let me mute myself.
Right, no trouble. We hang for a minute.
Huh?
Should we hang for a minute?
Hang for a minute. We could hang out, yeah.
I'm really glad you brought this up.
I'm sorry, guys. There's really cancelled.
How come it's
Sorry, I'm just trying to find a quiet room. Okay, I'm in a quiet room, a relatively quiet room. I'm back.
Okay.
Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that was basically the reassurance that I needed from both of you. I think that's mainly what I needed. I think it's going to be harder for people to understand, possibly, and maybe that's for me to work out how to explain it properly, and maybe that needs to be put into it definitely needs to be put into like the talk about that 51% a bit in the Prezi. Yeah, to begin with, I wrote about the users and there not being any wrong type of user, but then actually, like initially from Luke, but then Anna, you kind of reassured that with me, actually saying that whole, you know, looking after yourself before you're looking after other people, and keeping that at 51%. If someone feels like they can't give 51%, then yeah, they need to look after themselves first.
Yeah.
What video?
We turned the TV off so the signal's better.
I think maybe like it's just worth, I don't know, I'm aware of your confidence, Luke, and I admire it, but also like I think like just with Greenpeace, for example, when you were talking about it, 2.8 million worldwide, you know, they're not all in one place, and I think that's the only difficulty I see with you know, gaining a big population from one charity that's like Greenpeace. I think it might be more successful to have one that's more local, because you've got to remember we are going to have to reach some sort of critical mass, or whatever we want to call it, for people to be able to use the site. I mean, unless we build it in a very different, slower kind of way, you know, where someone goes on and it's like Gumtree was to begin with, where you only find, you know, one person selling a table in your area, and then like you might come on a year later and there'll be a couple more people or something. You know, it's the critical mass element. I think is important in the fact that when people are trading skills, creating events and stuff, they're going to need to be in the same place to be able to want to use other people's trades and skills and time. So in that way, that's important. But I do think it. Yeah, I think you've justified the 51%, definitely. I think it's just, it does mean things are going to be more difficult, but that's just another challenge that we have to overcome. And it does make more challenges for gaining funding, I think, as well. I think to convince people that 51% is important to keep the website for fundraising.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it is important to keep that. I think it's yeah. I mean, all the things that you were backing up Luke's points really, and of keeping our integrity with that and keeping it as a fundraising site.
It is difficult because from a business model perspective, it does make it more risky. It does make it slightly difficult. It's like when you start a fashion business and your initial idea is that you wanted to create really lovely summer dresses, and then you realize, well, since I'm in the dress industry, why not try and do work dresses as well? Why not try and do, you know, bridal dresses? And then suddenly you realize that because you wanted to mitigate your risk and capture the attention of more people, you no longer have such a strong narrative. You no longer have the original people that you wanted to create those dresses for, that really wanted lovely feminine summery dresses. now feel less resonance with your brand because you're trying to capture everyone's attention. And I think that that example with dresses is quite powerful, I guess, from a woman's point of view. You resonate with a brand and you have brand loyalty towards it. But even more so, I can imagine with causes. God, she's fucking talking loud. Sorry. 1 second, I'm just going to close the door.
Making some notes.
Huh?
I'm making some notes on real-time board.
I can't believe I could hear that through my headphones. It's lovely. She loves talking about her house. After all, it's her entire pension gone into bricks and mortar. Anyway, yeah, I think that when you think about that whole brand loyalty and resonance and people feeling an association to something, when you think about what Dignity is and how emotionally evocative the platform is, and how it kind of is an extension of your morals and virtues, I really think it's actually such an opportunity for us to be really careful with how we tell that narrative. So how we recognize the motives that people have for donating. And I think that us being confident about what we stand for is actually a much stronger thing than, yes, it will take longer, but it's actually it's made me really feel very strongly towards the cause and towards the, like you said, Pasco, the integrity of it. And I think integrity is so crucial when you're dealing with something that's so close to people's core values. Yeah.
Another thing coming up for me here is hearing all that is I guess we're working with three main sort of demographics here, right? Like workers and hirers, who are obviously constantly interchangeable as roles, I guess, rather than the demographics. And then causes. And so I guess there's an important question to come out of this, which is who have we got the easiest sell, or the most convincing sell, and for whom do we have the toughest sell? Who's hardest to convince out of workers, hirers, and causes? I kind of think for causes and for hirers, it's going to be a lot less of an attractive proposition if workers are going to pocket most of the money on every transaction. I think if we're relying so much on causes to do the otherwise unimaginably enormous task of basically getting the majority of our sign-ups, because they're going to be pushing to their networks themselves directly, saying, "Our active supporters, we love you. We don't want to rinse you of all of your monetary donations. Here's a way to have fun meeting your neighbours, developing skills, building networks, and doing what you enjoy, but also generating money for us and a bit for yourself." That there's a strong sell there. I think we really, having those causes, really loving what we do and being, receiving most of that money, I think is really going to motivate them to kind of push Dignity for us and get it out there. And for the hirer, I know I'm going to be so much more motivated to use Dignity to hire someone as opposed to all of the other ways that are out there. If I know that not just a little bit, but most of that payment is going to go to a cause I'm passionate about, rather than just in some dude's pocket. But I think I'm still well interested in exploring this ambassador thing. But I made another couple of notes, just referencing existing things, which obviously Dignity is strange as a project, how original it is. I'm still baffled how it kind of doesn't exist yet. Normally that's a pretty bad sign, isn't it? I think it's
no.
I mean, sometimes
not bad.
Invented something, there's often a reason. But it doesn't actually scare me. But so I was thinking about similar, like relevant to this particular conversation, there's an interesting thing going on at the moment with Olio, which is a food rescuing app.
Where's he gone? What did you write? Great question. We should also ask who will this platform not work without? Well, I actually just put the answer there underneath. I think charity PR. Actually, I realised that struggle that we'll have to get people is where charities come in, and yeah, they get in the users, but they have to see that it works first, or at least believe in the idea enough to know that it works. And I think this is actually where, like, in terms of our presentation and showing people the idea and showing charities the idea, which I think is actually a really massive, important part of once we have the Prezi, is presenting to charities, is emphasizing the fact that charities just aren't really online. Fundraising isn't really online. 7% of all money given is
horrible.
The transaction, the actual transaction is not happening online necessarily.
Yeah,
but the other
large percentage.
The really interesting thing is that there is a lot of, and I think, Luke, do you remember when I said that I would be really interested in the stage when we're going to have to do kind of account management and relationship management with the charities? For me, I can appreciate from a business.
Capture my flow somewhere, because otherwise I'm going to forget the thing I was exactly in the middle of saying. Yeah.
Okay.
You just left the room.
Shall I talk again? Oh no, you were talking, weren't you? And we went off because you went off.
Yeah, weird. So we carried on, and now you just interrupted Anna's flow.
What was I saying?
I think his signal's not very good. He's just frozen, isn't he?
I thought he was just looking very intently at something.
He's too still.
Well, I'll carry on with my flow then. I wonder if
it's my phone now, so it should be less shit than fucking.
Can Anna continue with her flow, because she's there and you kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Have you captured it, Luke?
Yeah, I've made. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say otherwise I could try and capture mine quickly. It was the business side of things. It was saying the transactions, only 7% of transactions or something were online. The really interesting thing from the charity's point of view is they will be monitoring their activity in lots of different ways. They'll be monitoring the fiscal result of their activity in different ways. So they'll have like a social media person sending out a couple of tweets every day. They'll have a salary in their P&L or in their balance sheet that will account for that person, and they'll need to be able to measure the value that that person is bringing back through their actions. So, for instance, that is one thing that I feel we'll need when we do charity PR or we work with charities. There's some really interesting stuff that we could do there with non-obvious financial gains for them in terms of the activity of our users and what they want. So there's a lot of value in explaining that to the charities and saying we have a whole load of data on the way people behave when they want to give to causes. We have actual words that they are saying as well, and there's so much that we're going to have that we can offer charities that is not just we're a place to have more financial transactions happen. So I would be really keen to later down the line, I think it's too early for us now to talk about it, but for me that's going to be a really fun conversation of how do we extrapolate and how do we identify all the value for charities, not just saying we're another income source that's completely managed by a third party.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that kind of supporter voice, or whatever we decide to call it, for people to who are passionate about causes, or at least interested in them, to put forward ideas for how they could do things differently, I think is slightly intimidating, but also potentially, especially once we've got some success stories, really exciting way for charities, especially big ones, maybe also equally small ones, to just have those richer conversations we're excited about causes having with their supporters, and showing how they've actually responded to some of those suggestions as well. Kind of like touching on the harnessing of collective intelligence. I think the wisdom of not just a crowd, but specifically people who care about that cause, that charity. I think, yeah, one of those ways there's a sort of different type of value for charities. I feel like that's quite a sort of paradigm shift, and quite a tall order to ask of especially larger charities, which I think are intrinsically not especially innovative, at least at the moment. But that's kind of what one want to do, huh? Like, make them more innovative, not forcefully, but through inspiration and success stories. But yeah, can I finish that flow from before that, my mid-sentence thing? I just want to just digest a bit more what you said. Okay, so Olio and couchsurfing were just two examples that I wanted to reference. I think there's been a lot of criticism in the couchsurfing community over the last few years, like literally couchsurfing.org specifically, that they've kind of opened up too much, too fast, and it's kind of unfortunate and even a little bit strange, because they started off really well, I think, in terms of their community being really clear about and passionate about the values of couchsurfing, and upholding those values every time they sleep on a stranger's sofa, you know, a stranger you just haven't met yet. And I think pretty much unanimously across the couchsurfing community, you will find that people feel like more today than ever, couchsurfing has people on it who will treat you just more than they used to, like a free hotel. And it's a massive generalisation, and there's still loads of incredibly awesome people on there. And sometimes I message people and say, you make me feel a little bit like a free hotel, and they message back, like, I'm really sorry, I didn't actually mean to do that. And there's a couple of reasons why, but yeah, no thanks. But yeah, it's just a lot of especially new people. It's not so much the older community members. And so I think, you know, a lot of people have actually left couchsurfing.org and moved over to Be Welcome or other ways of doing it. And it's also quite top-down, I think, I would argue. You know, just the senior staff at Couchsurfing decided they would massively change the whole website so that people can't self-organise conversations and events in the same way, and just sort of imposing those changes on the community rather than, like Dignity platform, I think, hopefully eating its own dog food with that supporter voice feature, where people can actually, supporters of Dignity can tell Dignity what they would like changed. Maybe even things like, we want to pocket more than 49%, like who knows. But I think the more we can build with, not for, the people that we want this to be valuable to, I think the better. But yeah, there are just two existing communities, Couchsurfing and Olio, which is that food sharing app, which is in quite a controversial place at the moment, and it's interesting to see how it unfolds. A good few people have kind of felt really disillusioned and sad about Olio now expanding beyond food, and you can now take photos of anything like this mug and these headphones and just stick them on Olio, saying that they're surplus, just like surplus food. And actually you can put stuff on there for money now, but they say it has to be, this is interesting, quite relevant actually, they say it has to be at least 50% off the original value that you bought it for. Do you know what I mean? So I bought these headphones for £100, I can stick them on Olio for, I guess, like £49. I'm not allowed to put them on there for £55, because otherwise it turns too much into eBay. And yeah, so there's really interesting conversations I was watching in the Facebook group for ambassadors for Olio, saying, you know, I'm in a rural area, and I can't go to restaurants now and pitch this to them because before it was like a food waste warrior sort of pure intention kind of just tackling food waste thing, and they were buying into it. And they were like, yeah, okay, we want to tackle food waste and not be a wasteful restaurant. But now I go in there and just say, the term was jumble sandwich. It looks like our beautiful baguettes and moussaka that we don't sell at the end of the day now getting lost in this jumble sale. And yeah, it's just an interesting thing that came to mind about the kind of dilution of values and ethos when you open something up too much, whether it's users or how it's used or whatever. Yeah.
Keeping that integrity. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, I need to rewrite that script to get. I've been cutting it down a bit, but I think we need to talk about the 51%, because if that's just reading it out. I mean, I know it's the way that I said it as well, but also the fact that people commented on it anyway. Because I remember the first couple of times I explained it, I didn't hesitate on it or anything, but it's something that people talk about all the time. But I think it needs some explanation with it in the explanation.
It might. I know that you just said it talked about hesitation, but it might not even be whether you hesitate or whether you're confident. I think it might more be the way that you pitch it, not the tone or your confidence. Just because like when I've talked about it with friends or explained it to people, I actually don't ever mention a number on the percentages. I just say that there is an option I explain the kind of the bar and say, there's an option to kind of increase and decrease how much you give to causes and yourself and the platform, and that's it. And I don't talk about percentages, and I think this is also something from a design point of view. When we get to sitting down with someone and designing the actual user interface, and Luke, I don't know Pasco, whether I said this to you, but Luke, I'm incredibly passionate about how people look at graphics when they interact with platforms, and how the way a platform is designed can massively impact the bottom line of an organization and the core behaviors of their users. It's like this whole, not to go too off topic, but this whole Trump's wife stealing Michelle's speech. I saw something on Facebook where someone actually said, this was not an accident. There's nobody getting fired. This is Trump using his tactics that he writes about in his business books of positioning. What is happening is every single news channel has now been airing the video of his wife in a position that is being compared directly to the First Lady. So visually, people are getting used to seeing Trump's wife in that position.
Yeah.
So when I think about, I mean, I am going a little bit far off, but when I think about the way that you design a platform and what the aesthetics will look like, yes, we need this bar, and this bar is so crucial, and I think it's wonderful. I think we should be able to allow people to slide it, and we'll need to talk a lot about how that will work. But I think something that's really crucial is that we actually don't have percentages on that bar until maybe you click them, and when your cursor is clicked on it, you can then see percentages. But what you're doing is you're cultivating more of a visual, how much does it look like I give, and you're removing this figure that feels more fiscal, that people associate with money and currency and stuff. So I have talked about it loosely to a lot of people, and nobody at any point has said anything about, but how much will I actually get? Or I'm worried about, it's just not come up. And it's interesting because I've never put a numerical figure on the percentages.
Then perhaps we don't until that point in which someone has decided to make an account and they have that choice of when they are literally to that point.
Yeah.
That's really,
It's powerful, isn't it?
Really powerful.
That's why I love.
And it breaks them down because they've made that choice to be involved, You know, they made a profile, they're ready to put up their job. Oh, how much money should I get myself?
So what you do is, yeah, you design the system so that it can never go less than 51, and then you allow a forum. And if you find that people that someone started a topic saying, why can't I take more than 51%, then you listen to it and then you visit it. But I think we should be designing this platform that is such a fundamental thing that it's not even in question. And we can do it so that the percentages are there if people need them, but it's only there when their behaviour really forces for it or really kind of requires it.
Yeah.
I can definitely think I feel really excited by the idea of us having some kind of, whether we call them ambassadors or what exactly their relationship is to us, but some kind of extended network that's going to grow and grow and grow, but not too fast, who totally get what we're doing and why, who can be like our feelers in all different places that we could never be, just in rural, economically deprived areas, in all different contexts, and I just can't wait to hear the stories back, like over the next few years, of the places Dignity is being used and how, like some old man charging £1 an hour to teach chess to naughty kids driving off school in the neighborhood, or just like, what? Like,
they're like story capturers.
Yeah,
like dream capturers, but for people's stories about how they're using Dignity.
And having a relationship with them that's not at all like, right, we better do that thing where we pretend we care what you're saying so that we look good and you don't feel like you're talking to a wall, but rather actually being really excited about the wisdom that they can bring from actually using it on the ground in real life, and being more, you know, like ask the audience how good the performance was, not the people on the stage.
Yeah. And you don't get that classic thing that happens in every business where people suck up to the people that are in charge because they want them to like them so that they keep their jobs or whatever. That's one of the things I hate most about hierarchy, like that disillusion that not only does the boss have because they don't get honesty, but then the workers don't get to say their truth either. There's just this wall of professionalism and arse licking that goes on that stops
it's inauthentic communication associated with the need for power.
Yeah. Cool. I think we're done. I'm done, and I'm hungry.
Okay.
I'm really happy after that.
By the way, I don't watch the news very often at all. I think I accidentally watch it like once a week, and it's kind of an issue with me and some of my friends because they are very politically kind of would you call it, politically versed, and I can engage in it, but I generally find that it's too depressing.
That's the idea. Luke, what do you think about not mentioning the 51% then?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was just going. That was the last thing that was hanging inside me. Was it's so interesting to hear how all of us describe the project differently to people, because I do this quite sort of borderline manipulative two-stage pitch where I'm like, so it's a platform where you can fundraise for stuff you're passionate about by helping out your neighbours with odd jobs. And they go like, oh, right, cool. And there's almost always there's this assumption that it's like volunteering, because there's infinite people out there who want to waste their time abseiling and bungee jumping.
Isn't that amazing though? And then you're like, oh, by the way, you can actually earn money from this as well for yourself.
Yeah. So they go, okay, right, cool. So it's a sort of like, and they'll come back with a sort of like clarification question, to which I'm almost always like, yeah, basically. Knowing there's a bit.
We should record ourselves pitching this to friends and then share it with each other.
No, you know what? I did it last night. I recorded myself and did it, and you know that fundamental percentage I think is where I've been going wrong, because that's the point where. Anyway, I think we all do it. So we all record on a webcam or whatever, and just record. Well, however you want to do it, and.
Yes, and I propose that if we do a recording and follow through on this, which I certainly intend to, that we stick it on SoundCloud on our Dignity channel, and then we can do time-stamped comments. So we can make time-specific sort of annotations on the audio.
Yeah. There's a teeny big inside you.
What a yeah.
Excellent.
Can I just say?
Did you comment on the percentage thing? Actually, did you answer my question, Nick?
No, I think I managed to skirt away from it. What was it?
You kind of did. You kind of went around it. The 51%. Are you happy for that not to be mentioned? I think actually that could be really powerful.
Yeah.
What about most of the money raised is going to causes? In case causes look at it and are like, hang on a minute, we've been shafted a few times in the past, we're cynical and suspicious, and what do we get, like 1% off every odd job on this platform?
It's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure actually. Like, I feel like
I'd be happy to help you play with wording. You do need to. This is the kind of the politics skill, the ability to acknowledge something and give an answer, but keep it open.
Yeah.
I think it's going to revolve around something like the majority of X will go to causes, or and you can be delicate with the wording that you use, so it gets people to assume that it's a high amount, or it's at least half or something. I don't know, but yeah.
But then that's the kind of point. One way we want engagers to engage before they realise that it's most of their money going. On the other hand, we want charities to know that actually they're going to get the majority of the money.
Yeah, so you're talking about where the abundance is and focusing on that rather than where the scarcity is and focusing on that instead.
Mm.
Yeah. I'd love to, I think that sharing our recordings of pitching it to people is awesome. And then also, I'd love to, don't know if we need to like book a time now exactly, but I'd love to dive into the ambassador role because I feel like that feels so intimately linked to this. It feels like almost half the conversation in there. So,
I reckon I know what you're going to say.
You say it then.
Well, questions. I think Anna has a load of questions for us, and I think that will be our next meeting.
Well, don't hold back.
To be no. That's just what you said to begin with, and I thought that might be a nice place to move on to.
So I've just been collecting. I've just kept a Google Doc and dumped anything in any context, in any tense, into this document. Questions for myself, questions to you guys, questions to the ether. Some are not questions, some are ideas. And at the moment it's just a mishmash. And I was thinking that I might try and kind of pull out some stuff from there to bring to a conversation with you guys, because some of it will be very basic understanding and stuff that you two have already thought about. I might find, so what I want to do is finish going through Real-Time Board and make sure that there is no questions on my Google Doc dump that could be answered by Real-Time. And if they are answered, do I want to go into them further with you guys because they obviously meant something to me for me to put them down. So yeah, I've still got to spend a little bit more time on that document. So I'm probably not going to want to have this call with you until next week, early next week, because then that gives me time to go to kind of dip in and out of it, because as you guys know, I'm not working fully at the moment. I'm kind of not logging on at 9 and then working the whole day.
I don't think we are.
Yeah, there is a big, massive thing that has come up, and I'm conscious of ending on a really lovely energy, and this is quite a big thing. So I'm thinking maybe I we should have another call tomorrow or something.
Hold on, what, are you going to end us with this big thing, or are you
No,
going to
no,
leave
I'm
it?
not. I'm saying I think I might. We should just chat about it tomorrow or something, because there's quite a nice energy from our call so far, and I'm aware that you're very hungry, Pascal.
I'm not very hungry. I need to pee more than I need to eat, actually. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
gonna not gonna sleep tonight now. I'm gonna be wondering what this is.
Oh yeah, that was a bit mean of me, wasn't it? It's
It's
difficult.
like, I've got this huge secret, but I can't tell you.
Okay.
Is it about you traveling?
No.
He's
So
pregnant.
there's two people. Oh God, no. There's two people who. So out of the mass of people that I've kind of mentioned this to casually and slightly more obsessively, there's two people that, without me saying anything, immediately said, "Ooh, is this related?" Or it made me. They either said, "Is this related?" or it made me think of Dignitas.
Yeah, I knew you were
So
gonna.
they were basically questioning the name. Those two people made a direct reference to Dignitas, and there was another person whose first response was, "Oh, that's a horrible name," and I was like, "No, let me explain. It's about the dignity of giving and blah blah blah." So I am getting quite a big feeling that the name is quite significant to some people, and I tried different things like explaining the concept without the name, and then announcing the name and then explaining the concept to see about how it was received. And generally, when I announced the name first and then explained the concept, there was more of a kind of two of those people were the people where I'd done it that way round. I don't know if that makes any difference, but yeah. So I wondered whether we should. Sorry?
Did you say dignity or dignity platform?
Dignity platform.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I said the whole name Dignity Platform.
Yeah,
What's
I've had
Yeah. Sorry?
Hmm?
What's Dignitas?
funeral finances or something.
It's an organisation, quite a large one, that's had a lot of press around euthanasia.
Oh, right.
Like dignified euthanasia, basically.
Should assisted suicide be legal in the UK? 86% say yes. Yeah. Are they, out of interest, are they like late 60s, early 70s?
No. Oh yeah, one. My mum was one, and she's 64. Someone else was Jack was early 20s, and Alex is early 40s, early 30s. Shit.
Hmm.
But those were the three people that were like, oh, where it was a kind of that would put me off. But I counted those because it's easy to remember. But there was one or two people, and I can't remember who they were, that were like, how set is the name, or why that name? And I kind of went into it, and they went, oh yeah, I can see. Or there was kind of, but yeah, it made me think. How have you guys? Have you had? I mean, Luke, obviously, I completely understand the really strong meaning behind it. This idea of completely undignified giving and almost being forced to kind of give in a way that you don't want to do, and it feels like, yeah, it's like when you have to give money to someone on the street and you wonder whether they're going to use it for food, and you feel bad and yeah. So I completely understand it. But I was wondering, just putting it out there, have you guys had any feedback on the name?
Only positive from my end. Yeah, people like the name. I've not heard of Dignitas myself, and I've not had any positive words about the name. Yeah, I really like it, but I agree. Well, I don't know. Because you got to remember, like, the people that you talk about are in, your circle. And I know that they could be very varied or whatever, but there's, a huge amount of other circles that we're reaching out to. And, names are generally taken for most things on the internet. I think Dignity is very strong, and it's certainly different to Dignitas. And I like the idea of, you can say you're giving with dignity. Is that a job with?
Yeah, that's a strong one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think it's
like that as well. Like, I almost immediately imagined, like, when is the most crucial point that this name is going to be thrown around in a conversation? Well, I can only imagine, but we rely on completely. And I thought board meetings in charities, community projects, and different initiatives where, the sort of key strategic people are like, agenda item number 4, somebody's pitched the idea that we could be using Dignity to fundraise.
Oh my god. Can we should do a satire sketch as part of the launch for Dignity platform?
That's an advert right there. That's PR.
Oh my god. Well, that's my answer to everyone now. I'm just gonna paint that picture and give them that line.
I almost want that line to be another idea.
Oh, Luke, I am so serious. We should do a satire 10-second sketch. And that should be, how Adele did the marketing for her second album or third or fourth album, whatever, that Hello. Do you remember? Did you guys ever see that?
I don't know what it went.
Okay, I will send you a video. So Adele, who's a singer who I admire way too much for a grown woman, she had a kid and went off the radar for like 3 years, and she did a TV advert for her album that was really different. It was just like Hello, and that was obviously the first single of the song. Anyway, she only needed about 5 or 10 seconds of airtime, and it caused this massive storm on Twitter of this kind of hashtag Hello. And you just think like we could create something with 5 to 10 seconds of audio, and it could just be this like scene of these people in this boardroom exactly as you said it, and this guy looking very confused, and then bam, you get a black screen and it says dignityplatform.org, and that's it. It's so freaking cool.
I have so many so exciting like guerrilla advertising, guerrilla marketing, like just creative ways I feel like we could get this out there.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that, yeah.
Can you just tell me that sentence again?
Again.
Where the guy's like, item number 4.
Yeah. Like, I can't remember, too on the spot now.
Sorry.
I'm going to go pee whilst I do that.
Okay. I'm going to go get some food. It's 7 something here, I think, after this.
I might just have to create a little frame on real-time board for just ridiculously cool marketing.
Guerrilla. Yeah.
But since I was a kid, I've been passionate about just adverts that are just playful, creative, bring out the best in people, don't leverage and exploit our weaknesses and fears, but rather shine a spotlight on what we love about ourselves and what we enjoy doing and being and interacting with and connecting to.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so fun. But you should check out Adele's TV advert if you didn't see it.
Well, okay, so I'll just find it myself. Yeah.
Because I've just never seen anything like it from a kind of guerrilla marketing point of view.
Nice. Oh,
and I was just like shocked. I actually had my mouth open when it aired on TV, and I was like, no.
I'm going to quickly just tell you my favourite advert that I experienced recently, and you can tell me whether you think it's an advert or like marketing stunt or whatever.
Okay.
I was at We Share Fest, and it was the last day. It just finished, and I went outside wearing these trousers that had a massive hole right in my crotch, and I only had one pair of trousers and some shorts. And I was just like, God, this hole is so annoying. Everyone can see my pants. And outside, it's funny because this was right in the midst of me like being as excited as ever about teal organisations, and Frederick Laloux referencing Patagonia as one of the teal organisations in his book Reinventing Organisation. And outside We Share Fest was parked up on the last day this Patagonia van, and there was like 2 or 3 members of staff in it, or just outside. It had like a beautiful little canopy and a little table there having coffee and stuff. And it was a mobile repair unit. And I went up to them and I was like, I've got a massive hole in my pants. Can you fix that? And they were like, just on a lunch break right now, but yeah, when do you want it done by? And I'm like, oh no, it's fine, don't worry, because I need to jump on a tube in a moment, so it's okay, don't worry. And the woman who was like sat opposite me was like, no, that's cool. She put her food down and was like, go on, give me them. And then so I went round the back of the van and gave her my trousers. She fixed them for free in like 10 minutes, just professionally sewing together this huge hole with the perfect coloured thread, and gave them back to me and was like, you're welcome, enjoy them. And I was like, when do I pay you? And just no. Fucking wow, that's just incredibly fun.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I didn't win a prize or anything. That's just like for anyone.
Do you remember how we met?
Well, at that table, wasn't it? Well, that was the first.
No.
That was the second.
That was
the
the second time. Do you remember the first time?
We've done this before. You've told me this before. That's the conversation I most remember, even though.
You remember me recounting it as opposed to it actually happening?
Yeah. I remember remembering it when you told me. I think I'm just getting shy. Hang on.
I think I tapped you on your back and was like,
yeah.
oh, I love your boxes.
Yeah. That was in the middle, wasn't it, by the stairs?
Yeah.
Got close to the bar. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I even said to you, is that like, does that help the sign on your back or something? Or your front? It was on your front.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. We should reference that more if like we go on, if we get some like 3-way interview on Forbes or something about how we all met each other. That's just. Jack, when did we first meet, mate?
I was just thinking. So I think our first conversation was about microwaves in Rose Hill, because I think Jem brought me over for a party for Gracie's birthday. I think I met you in your kitchen, and the initial conversation was about microwaves and whether they were safe or not.
Me and Jem wrote out like a big A1 piece of card. Pros and cons for microwave usage.
I still can't decide.
Do you know what I've just realised? Pasco, the first time that I saw you, you were in your boxes.
Yeah, funny that.
So there's a theme there. A theme of boxes.
I think probably every time you see me, I've been in my boxes. It's a hot country.
Oh, poor you.
Hey, everyone's welcome to come. Huh?
Like 30 degrees here yesterday. It was nuts.
I know, my parents said.
Yeah, we've got a fan here as well.
Does that mean slightly floaty?
No, it's like you don't get it in London.
Well, I've got a chandelier.
Whoa.
With no light bulbs in it.
Because my mum was like, I'm going to put fans in all the rooms. I was like, Mum, you're not in Africa anymore. You're in London.
I can see you got a fan in that room.
Huh?
You got a fan on in that room, though, haven't you?
Yeah, it's in the ceiling.
Very good.
I'm done. I'm gonna go eat some lunch. I think we did really well there.
Yeah. I'm gonna have some dinner.
Did I get an answer from you about this percentage thing? Oh no, we're just gonna. So what are we gonna say? Like, well, we say most of the money is gonna go to the cause.
Majority.
Maybe at most for charities, like makes them think, oh, we'll get the majority, and most you know, maybe people using it will not think as much because it's not a percentage, it's not a number. I don't know, we can play around with the words, but if you can both look at the purpose proposal. I'd also love some feedback on the visuals of what you think about going through a website. I haven't really, the visuals, there's a picture that's in the folder, I think, of the picture that I've made. I might draw another one. It's not that clear. Or I might try and create one on real time. Yeah, that's another conversation.
Cool. Yeah, check out wireframing.
Sorry?
I was just going to say, check out the wireframing tools on Realtime Board under the insert menu. There's some pretty cool, you know, it's got like buttons and pointers and checkboxes and avatars and stuff, like all under the wireframe section. I haven't played with it much yet, but it looks pretty genius.
Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, maybe I'll create a little storyboard on the corner. But yeah, I'd love some input for the script.
Yeah.
I think that's our next stage, really. Once we've got that together and got the visuals, then we can get them to make it. Then, like, majority of money is there, and the rest will be there by the time we finish it. So then once we've got that, we can look at funding options.
It's high on my priorities. I had 5 cuts last night. It was insane. So yeah, as soon as I get a chance, I'm all over it like a rash.
All right. Okay. Peace and love.
Bachi. Hugs.
Yeah. Adios.